Okay, hello there. Last one of these I'm recording. I'm Toe Grinder. I'm a guide writer, mage theory crafter, and expert in the Alter Time Discord. I'm going to be going over the frost tree in this video. I went over the general tree in a separate video. If you want to know my thoughts on that before getting into the spec tree, I will link it. Click it, it'll be up there somewhere. Um, Unlike the other videos, I'm going to do this one a bit differently, and if I don't like the result, I'm going to bin it, and you will never see it. So if you're watching this video, I guess I did like the result. I have not seen the frost tree yet. I have heard not very good things about it, and I thought it would be interesting if I literally these videos are first impressions. Like, I read through the tree, I look through the talents, and I kind of digest them and then hit record. I genuinely don't know what's on this tree. So, interesting experiment. Let's see how it goes. Ice Lance. Okay. We're gonna have some hard locks here, so let's go through them. Frozen Orb, fine. Blizzard. Let's see if I can avoid taking it. And Fingers of Frost. So these all work as they do today, with the exception of Flurry. So just to elaborate, um, Flurry is now charged, and whenever Brain Freeze procs, you get a charge of Flurry back. So Brain Freeze is down here. Frostbolt has 30% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Flurry and cause your next Flurry to deal 50% extra damage. The big issue here that the charges are trying to solve is you cast Frostbolt, you immediately start casting another Frostbolt, you proc Brain Freeze on Fingers of Frost. If you cast Flurry at the end of the cast, you will waste the Fingers of Frost 100%. If you cast Fingers of Frost or Ice Lance at the end of the cast and use the Fingers of Frost, you might munch a Brain Freeze, which is really bad because Brain Freeze is such a powerful proc. So you're basically in a small loss for definite or risk a big loss situation, and both kind of feel bad. So the idea with Flurry charges is if Brain Freeze procs at the end of that Frostbolt cast, you don't care because Flurry's charged. So you're casting, you've got one Flurry charge, you proc Brain Freeze and Fingers of Frost. At the end of the cast, you can just Ice Lance, because if Brain Freeze procs again, well, now you've just got two Flurries, and you can spend it on the next cast. And then that way you can get rid of all your Fingers of Frost, and then you can go into a Frostbolt Flurry. The issue here is that there's a 50% damage increase attached to Brain Freeze, so we're back to square one, because you're never going to be able to munch Brain Freeze procs. Like, if you're in that situation where you're casting Frostbolt and you both procs, you should be able to just Ice Lance at the end and use your Flurry later because it's charged, but you can't, because if you risk munching Brain Freeze, you risk munching the 50% damage increase. So it feels like they've added charges and not really understood why everybody wanted charges. That said, if they get rid of the increased damage increase on Brain Freeze, I think this is a really good change. Shatter rank 2. Shatter increases your chance to deal a critical strike by 25%. I'm assuming that this requires me to take Shatter rank 1. The next row, so yeah, Brain Freeze, Winter's Chill. Each hit of Flurry now applies Winter's Chill to the target. I know people will complain about having to spend a lot of points on stuff that you already had. It's a legitimate criticism, but it's just one of the trade-offs whenever you have a talent system where there are big trees versus small, meaningful choices like we have in the current Mists of Pandaria system. Um, yeah, it's a downside to the system. It's a fair criticism, but at the same time, I do think it is an RPG, and they want to keep like you progress through the tree. Um, I guess that's their logic. I'm not saying that's good logic, but um, it probably is their logic. Uh, Frostbite, yeah, whenever you slow something, you have a chance to root it. It's PvP talent, it's kind of nice. Maybe okay filler talent. And Frostbolt critical strikes impart Ice Lance, increasing damage by 10% for 6 seconds. So this is the original chain reaction. I quite like it. It gives you a reason to shatter Frostbolt that's a bit more meaningful. Like you can't really play around this a lot because it only lasts 6 seconds, but like caring about shattering Frostbolt for reasons other than just the Frostbolt does a bit more damage is nice. I've also just noticed that I have to take Blizzard because this goes down this route, which has Icy Veins in it, so shit one. Cold Snap is as it is today. 5-minute cooldown. I think it's a 5-minute cooldown on live. I wanted to say 4 minutes, but I think I might be getting it mixed up with Ice Block. Let's go through. So we 4 talents in this row, but they're quite spread out, so you don't really have much choice. It kind of just depends which row you're going down, but I'll go through the three of them anyway. That's probably why there's three choice nodes actually, because you don't get choice in what way you go. So it's a good place to put the choice nodes. Frozen Touch versus Ebon Bolt. Um, I think Thermal Void builds will probably want Frozen Touch, and Glacial Spike builds will probably want Ebon Bolt. The reason why Ebon Bolt is good for Glacial Spike builds is because it lets you use your flurries whenever you want. You can use them to build icicles, and then if you ever reach 5 icicles without a flurry charge, you can just cast an Ebon Bolt, and instead of using the flurry on Ebon Bolt, you can just use it on Glacial Spike. Um, Probably less of an issue with flurry being charged because you can pull a flurry in advance without risking munching flurries. Um, so maybe Frozen Touch just ends up being the winner here. Lonely Winter and Water Elemental, get Water Elemental out of my life. I never want to see it again. I do believe Water Elemental has a spell now called Water Jet. It does not work like old Water Jet. It's just a button you press and you get a Brain Freeze proc. Quite powerful. It might be enough for Water Elemental to compete, especially in the Glacial Spike builds, but probably not in the Thermal Void builds. Um, One of the reasons as well why Welly is quite good for AoE builds and Glacial Spike builds is because Lonely Winter is quite narrow in the spells it buffs. It's literally Frostbolt, Ice Lance, Flurry. It is a big damage buff to those spells, but it's only those spells. Okay, Focus Frost. Frozen Orb deals an additional 100% damage when hitting only one target, and each time Blizzard deals damage, the cooldown of Frozen Orb is reduced. I'm pretty sure this is a rounding error, and it's not actually 0.3 seconds, it's 0.25 seconds, which is what it is on live. Frost has really got fisted in Shadowlands. Frost has been nerfed several times this expansion because of Shadowlands systems. In beta, Splitting Ice and Ice Lance got nerfed because of Ice Bite and Freezing Winds. And then Blizzard and the AoE kit and its funnel got nerfed because of Icy Propulsion and Rune of Power and the interaction between those two things. Like, it is absolutely insane to me that Blizzard isn't undoing those changes that they made. Like, Splitting Ice, I'm pretty sure, is not back at 80%. It's not. And Improved Blizzard, like, Blizzard isn't back at 0.5 seconds. Like, I really think they need to take a hard look at those nerfs. Like, nerfs to the base kit because of temporary systems are never a good idea. But I mean, this choice, it's a single target versus AoE choice. I think that even, like, Improved Blizzard isn't funnel anymore. It's just too bad. So I think even if you have a fight where there's occasionally ads and you're thinking, oh, maybe I might snipe some funnel, no, just play. I think you're probably just playing the Frozen Orb talent. And then Bone Chilling. So whenever you attempt to chill a target, you gain Bone Chilling, increasing spell damage dealt, and it stacks. I've said this in every video so far, and I will say it in this one. Just because talents haven't seen play doesn't mean these talents exist within a certain context, and they compete with certain other choices. Whenever the talent system gets reworked, those talents are now competing against different things. Talents you might think are good or bad might not be good or bad. You need to challenge your assumptions of what you think is good. Bone Chilling is a good example of this. It's been competing with Lonely Winter for a long time. It is a good talent. It is basically 5% increased frost damage. It stacks really fast in AoE. You'll keep it up for the whole fight. I mean, you'll maybe occasionally drop it if there's an intermission or something. But on a raid encounter, you can expect to keep it up the entire time. And it's something like Mythic Plus. It stacks per target, so like you'll stack it to full stacks almost instantly. Like for 1 point, this is a really powerful talent. Obviously, it's a bit boring, but it is what it is. Okay, next row. Spell not found. Class. Flurry now has 2 charges. Okay, so I guess Flurry isn't really charged unless you get down here. Wintertide, increase the damage of Frostbolt and Fingers of Frost. Ice Lance of Steel, more damage to frozen targets. Sure. I mean, it's powerful. It's really boring. It might be 3 points for something that boring is kind of disappointing. Blizzard has a 30% chance to increase the damage of your next Cone of Cold. Not bad. Adds a little bit more interaction to the AoE rotation. Not the most exciting thing ever, but I'm not offended by it. Flash Freeze. Each of your icicles deals more damage, and when an icicle deals damage, you have a 5% chance to gain Fingers of Frost. This is good because it buffs Glacial Spike. If you're not playing Glacial Spike, it's not that good. The Fingers of Frost thing can still proc when you you can fire Glacial Spike and you can proc Fingers of Frost off it. It still works off Glacial Spike instead of regular icicles. So that's nice. I think I'll try and do like a Thermal Void build and see what that looks like, and then we'll try a Glacial Spike build afterwards, and then maybe an AoE build. And your Frost Spells deal 10% more damage to targets that are rooted and frozen. Extremely curious if this is supposed to say rooted and frozen or rooted or frozen. If it's rooted and frozen, then that's just unbelievably niche and probably not seeing much play. If it's rooted... Oh, sorry, that's if it's rooted and frozen. If it's rooted or frozen, it's kind of interesting because then you start thinking of like synergies in Mythic Plus. Like Binding Shot is a really long root. Like you could have a damage... That's essentially like a 5, 6, 7... I'm not even sure how long Binding Shot lasts in Dragonlands. I know they were going after some AoE CC, so it might have been nerfed. But yeah, super powerful if it can synergize like that, but I will try to avoid it for now, let's just say. So I can get on to the next row. Icy Veins, every spec has to spec in its major cooldown now. That's just part of the tree fantasy, let's just say. Glacial Assault Flurry has a 15% chance to call down an Icy Comet. Again, boring, but good. I'm going to put 1 point in it to just get down to the next row. Maybe this is just better. Let's do that anyway. Frozen Orb makes Blizzard instant cast and increases its damage done. Seabolt Freezing Rain. Icy Propulsion. Ray of Frost. So the big thing with Icy Propulsion now is it is single target spells only. Ray of Frost. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, just because it's been competing against good options doesn't mean it's not good itself. I need to test more to know about this, honestly. But let's just say we're sticking with the Thermal Void build. Then the other options are Comet Storm, which I haven't gone that route, and Splitting Ice, which we still have an opportunity to go down that route. But let's just see. So on this row, like with Icy Propulsion, please just remove the text that says while Icy Veins is active. Like a lot of the really feast or famine aspects of Frost come from the fact that this is only can happen during Icy Veins. So if your Icy Veins has like 5 seconds left and there's 45 seconds left on the cooldown and something happens and you drop it in those 5 seconds, you've got 45 seconds left until your next Icy Veins, or 40 seconds. But if you were able to cast like 2 flurries in that time, suddenly your Icy Veins is back, and suddenly 5 seconds of downtime costs you 40 seconds of Icy Veins, and that's not healthy gameplay. So I think if they just changed this so that it worked outside Icy Veins, I think that this would be so much healthier to play with. Snap Freeze, Icy Veins grants a charge of Brain Freeze and Fingers of Frost. Nice. 2 points for 3 seconds of Icy Veins. Absolute banger. Chain Reaction. Your Ice Lance is... This is the same chain reaction we have on Knife. Okay. And then I second the Thermal Void. So what else is down here? Fractured Frost. Your Frostbolt has a 20% chance to cleave. Oh yeah. And it's in front of Cold Front. So this almost certainly counts triple for Cold Front, which is like the point. I don't know, this might be a bit of a meme. We'll see. It might have use cases. If you're in really long, sustained 3-target cleave, it's possibly good. And then on the other side, you have Hailstones casting Ice Lance on frozen targets. That's a 50% chance to generate an Icicle, and then Glacial Spike. Oh, and there's this one. Choosing between Slick Ice and Freezing Winds. Both of them look to be exactly as they are today. So for a single target and non-consistent cleave, I would go with Slick Ice. Which is really interesting because now I only have a single point left. Yeah. So I hit here and I have 10 points left and I immediately have to spend 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. Like literally just this little triangle here, I have to use 9 of the 10 points that I get below this line. So that's pretty bad for a start. It's quite clear that if you want to go into the Thermal Void build like you're pigeonholed into it, like they have like a very clear idea of like what the Thermal Void build is and what it's allowed to do. And it's basically restricted to this. Maybe it's fine. I'll see how much flex. I'll make up my mind when I see how much flexibility there is. But if I had to spend other talent, I don't know. I think I'd just put it wherever. Probably. I'd maybe look to try and pick up splitting ice. Can I even do that? Oh, this is so good for 1 point. Yeah, okay, maybe this is an issue. Like, I have just no idea how I get the splitting ice. Because if I choose splitting ice, it's the only thing that I can pick outside of this triangle below this line. And I don't know how to get there. Like, these are way too good. Like, Flurry Charge just seems mandatory. Frozen Touch is so good for 1 point. This is... Oh, like, I need this to get the Icy Veins. Like, this might be going the ways of the Arcane Tree, where, like, there's just no flexibility. Like, I just have no idea how you get Splitting Ice. Like, even if I was to say, okay, I'm a Freezing Winds gamer, and all I care about is two-target cleave. Like, I can give up Winter's Chill, I can give up Flurry Charges, I can give up Frozen Touch, but, like, that's just so sad. It's entirely possible that the way they're constructing this is that Thermal Void is a single target spec. It's kind of disappointing that Freezing Winds is down here because Freezing Winds, it's kind of really nice on Cleave. With Splitting, it's the synergy of Splitting Ice is what makes it good, but I don't know. Shit one nerds, I guess, is what Blizzard are going to say about that one. Because I don't think this is realistic. I think you probably have to take Flurry Charges. Which probably means that this isn't a particularly appealing talent. You probably stick. This is probably actually where the flex point goes. Yeah, doesn't really matter where you put it, to be honest. So yeah, the Thermal Void tree looks very, very narrow. Let's try Glacial Spike, though. I don't want to judge the entire tree too quickly. So obviously we're still picking Icy Veins. We still need... Like, Frozen Touch is still so good. You're so dependent on your procs. You still need your two Flurry Charges because you need to be able to consistently shatter your Glacial Spike. Don't care about this. So what I would change is I'm going to change this to Welly. And let's just say, for argument's sake, we change this to Ellen Bolt, though I think it is quite likely that you still just play Frozen Touch. And yeah, improved Blizzard, absolute garbage can. Okay. So... Oh, do I still have to take Icy Propulsion when I play Glacial Spike? I was kind of hoping that with the really Feast or Famine... the really Feast or Famine, like, playstyle of Thermal Void, I was hoping that Glacial Spike would be a competitive option because you can, like, you sidestep it, right? Like, Thermal Void, Icy Propulsion, Icy Veins, yeah, you need uptime, and if you can't get uptime, shit one. But if you have an alternative build that you can use in those situations, then maybe it's fine. But I don't know, like, is Icy Propulsion just too easy to get? Do we go, let's just say Splitting Ice, anything that generates an Icicle is good. And now we're left with 4 talent points. So let me see that I got everything Icicle related in the tree. Don't care about this, assuming that it's not actually frozen. If this is frozen and it's a tooltip error, then that is probably 2 more points that are, like, super competitive. It's entirely possible. Oh no, I was going to say it's entirely possible you don't want this, but you do need it. Okay. Yeah, so can I go down the other side instead? Like, if I go Freezing Rain, I don't really want Freezing Rain. I technically can get this. I don't think Frostbolt Cleaving generates additional icicles. I will write a comment and put it in the video if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure the damage that an icicle will do is calculated on impact when the Frostbolt deals damage, but I think the icicle itself is generated on cast. So you can get these 2 capstones. I assume that this is the intent because you, like, in here is seems so competitive for points. Like, I've only got 2 points left. There's no shot I care about. Without Thermal Void, this is so bad. I wonder if these should be swapped. Because kind of, I want to go down here and get this Icy Vein straight because it just, if you think about it, you don't have Thermal Void, you don't have Icy Propulsion. Or, well, I do have Icy Propulsion, but it's not very good because my Icy Veins doesn't last very long. Icy Veins is a really weak cooldown. that's fine. You just become a flat damage spec with big glacial spikes. You don't really care that it's a bad cooldown. But I mean, it doesn't matter if your ICVNs lasts a minute or 10 seconds. This trait does the same thing. So I kind of want that one, and then I don't know. I don't want this because I don't want stacking ice on damage. I don't care. So maybe I go into the Comet Storm route. Maybe I don't even go in here. Maybe you literally just go down to Comet Storm instead. If you're playing Glacial Spike. Or maybe you play Ray of Frost. Probably not, though. Yeah, maybe. I've got 1 point spare. I don't really care where it goes, to be honest. This is the same boat I was in with Thermal Void. Let's just put a point in Icy Propulsion. So, this is my first stab at a Glacial Spike build. Yeah, there's just seems like there's like zero interesting choices in this tree. I would make a Mythic Plus build as well, but I genuinely don't care at this point. Like, everything you spec into in this tree just feels like something you should have. There's some things things need combined. Like, there is no way that like Brain Freeze and Winter's Chill need to be separate talents. There is no way that Flurry Charges needs to be its own thing. Like, why is this 3 points? This is 3 points. Like, you're just spending so many points to get things you have, and you're making like so few choices along the way that I can see why people are very critical of this tree. It's entirely possible that the end result is fine. Like, you spec into your Thermal Void build or your Glacial Spike build, you go in game, you walk into a dungeon or a raid, and your spec plays fine. Like, that is entirely possible. But the talent tree itself is dog shit. There's no choice. Yeah, what I just said. I could just repeat the last sentence. There's no choice. You're spending so many points to spec into things you already have. Like, there's just almost feels like point bloat. Like, these things, like, and why am I spending like 6 points in this? Why am I having to spend like 4 points to make Flurry actually a spell? Why is Blizzard still a fucking shit spell because of Shadowlands systems? Like, there's some nice things. Like, I do actually think the idea of like if you play Thermal Void and you want Splitting Ice, you need to make concessions. Like, I think stuff like that can generate interesting decisions, but this tree is just not it. So that's the first impression. It's not the most articulate way I've ever flamed something in my life, to be honest, but I can definitely see why this tree is falling under a lot of criticism. It's not offensively bad, but it is probably the worst tree I've looked at so far. Yeah. I made a rework, I think, for this one. I definitely started on a high note by starting with fire. But yeah. Yeah, that's me. Sorry to finish on a downer, but if you like this video, please do check out my other videos. I have one on the general mage tree, and I have one on all 3 specs. These are first impression videos. They're not the most coherent things ever, but any feedback on the content is still appreciated. I am trying to get more into this content creation business, especially going into the next expansion. So do like, comment, subscribe, keep an eye on the channel, and yeah, let me know what you want to see. But until then, hopefully the next time I have a talent tree on my screen, it looks a lot better than this. Take care.